Bienvenidos y bienvenidas a todas. La agenda de hoy es quién es quién. Ahora en un momentito le daré paso a Ian para que se introduzca. Vamos a hablar sobre los conceptos básicos de IA generativa y un poco de historia. Luego os vamos a presentar qué es Learnwise y finalmente Ian os va a enseñar con una live demo cómo funciona Learnwise. Y lo dicho, si tenéis preguntas, dudas, las podéis poner en el chat. Y Pietro también nos va a ayudar a responder todas esas dudas y preguntas que tengáis. Ian, I give you the word so you can introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining. My Spanish is not fantastic, but it's a real fantastic pleasure to join today. So I'm one of the founders at LearnWise. On my flank is Pietro, who's our Chief Technical Officer, who is Spanish speaking. So he's going to help me with any questions you might have. But LearnWise has grown very quickly over the last 2 years for AI agentic support. So the way that students, instructors, administrators can use AI to get information quickly within the learning management system. So excited to show you that today.
Perfect. So Pietro, do you want to introduce yourself? We haven't.
Sí, perfecto. Sí. Bueno, no estoy como tal la diapositiva esta del PowerPoint, pero de todos modos soy Pietro, cofundador y CTO de Learnwise. Mi enfoque más más o menos la proyección tecnológica de la empresa, pero como también hablo español aquí ya me invitó, así que cualquier otra pregunta de cómo funciona, cualquier cosa técnica de cómo se puede hacer implementaciones, me pueden preguntar a mí. Gracias.
Perfecto. Bueno, me introduzco yo soy Marina, soy la responsable de la vertical de educación aquí en Altia. Trabajamos con diferentes instituciones educativas y hoy os venimos a presentar pues Learnwise, uno de nuestros partners que forma parte de nuestro ecosistema. Antes os voy a dar un poco de contexto en general de dónde partimos, ¿vale? Y luego, como os he comentado, pues Ian y Pietro os van a comentar todo lo fantástico y maravilloso que es Learnwise, ¿vale? Cómo es, os vamos a hacer una live demo y al final, lo dicho, tendremos un juego. ¿Vale? Pues os cuento conceptos básicos de IA generativa y un poco de historia, ¿vale? La IA no es algo que venga reciente, ¿vale? Sino que es algo que llevamos tiempo. Ahora os voy a enseñar un poco de cronograma. ¿Vale? Pero conceptos para la gente, pues como yo, que no somos técnica, ¿vale? Para que entendáis un poco, pues, qué es inteligencia artificial, qué es machine learning, deep learning y IA generativa. ¿Vale? La inteligencia artificial es esa programación que intenta imitar el razonamiento humano. El machine learning se centraría más en algoritmos definidos para dotar a esas máquinas la capacidad de aprender un dato conjunto. ¿Vale? El deep learning sería esa mm, vamos a llamar basada en redes neuronales capaces de manejar grandes volúmenes de datos y finalmente la IA generativa está enfocada en la generación de ese nuevo contenido, ¿vale? A partir de datos ya existentes, ¿vale? Un poco de historia, como os decía, la IA no viene de hace 2 días, ¿vale? Ya en 1957 pues ya se hablaba de IA, ¿vale? Pero no es hasta pues que lo conocemos todo, ¿no? Con el lanzamiento de ChatGPT, que a lo mejor es el hito más que nos resuena a todos, ¿vale? Que es en 2022, que donde también Microsoft pues invierte, creo que son 1.000 millones de euros, ¿vale? Para el tema de Copilot, ¿vale? Pero un hito muy relevante es en 2018, ¿vale? Que es cuando Google implementa Transformers en BERT, ¿vale? Que os invito también a leer todo lo referente a lo que es Google BERT, ¿vale? Seguimos con los conceptos básicos, ¿vale? Insisto, esto yo no tenía ni idea, ¿vale? A mí me lo han explicado tal cual. Intentaré transmitir de la manera pues, más fácil para la gente que no sea tan tequi como aquí, como Pietro, ¿vale? Que es el que sabe más de esto, ¿vale? Y gente que está conectada, pero para que entendáis un poco más, pues si salen conceptos después, ¿vale? El LLM, perdón, es el modelo de lenguaje largo, ¿vale? Que son modelos entrenados con grandes capacidades de textos procedentes de muchos orígenes, ¿vale? Hay una gran cantidad de parámetros, ¿vale? Se basa en transformers que son capaces de comprender ese lenguaje, ¿vale? Que responden consultas de casi cualquier temática, ¿vale? Y generan respuestas muy bien estructuradas. ¿vale? Para que sigamos entendiendo este concepto, ¿vale? Sería que este modelo de lenguaje largo, ¿vale? Nos daría la posibilidad de saber qué palabra va después de, por ejemplo, los estudiantes abren sus, ¿vale? Y este modelo, pues en este caso, pues sería que abren sus libros, ¿vale? Sería el modelo entrenado a que realmente la siguiente palabra fueran libros, ¿vale? Y estos modelos de lenguaje largo o LLM, ¿vale? Pueden producir esas respuestas más largas, sobre todo coherentes, ¿vale? ¿Qué es Learwise? Learwise es una empresa que, como ha comentado Ian, ¿vale? Tiene un equipo experimentado, ¿vale? Como Ian, como Pietro, como Greg, como Amara, que vienen de grandes empresas, como por ejemplo los que estáis aquí seguramente conocéis Canvas, son los creadores de Impact, ¿vale? O SDSoft. Conocen muy bien los sistemas de Llama, OpenAI, etcétera. Cumplen con todas las certificaciones de GDPR. Forman parte del One Tech, si no, Ian, One Tech. Forman también parte de la red de AWS, ¿vale? También trabajan para Google Startups, etcétera, etcétera. Y ya tienen más de 500 users, 500 usuarios. Ahora ella nos va a contar un poco más sobre las instituciones que trabajan ya con Learwise, pero para daros un poco más de concepto, ¿vale? ¿Qué es Learwise? Es una plataforma impulsada por la inteligencia artificial diseñada para mejorar la enseñanza, compatible con cualquier LMS, con Moodle, con Canvas, con Brightspace, con Blackboard, ¿vale? Y se puede integrar fácilmente con otros LMS del mercado si es que no tenéis esos LMS, ¿vale? Ya nos va a enseñar en nada, en 5 minutitos, ¿vale? Cómo funciona Learwise, pero 3 aspectos súper importantes. Learwise puede dar soporte al LMS en sí, puede dar soporte al contenido que está dentro del LMS, ¿vale? Y aparte también puede dar soporte a la creación de feedback dentro del LMS, ¿vale? Para que conozcáis un poco más también, da soporte a esas instituciones, ¿vale? También tiene una parte de analytics que ahora la veréis, ¿vale? Para que cualquier organización pueda comprender, ¿vale? Qué está pasando en su institución, pueda detectar necesidades de los estudiantes para mejorar no solo el contenido, el soporte y su experiencia, ¿vale? Hace el aprendizaje mucho más accesible, mucho más afectivo, ¿vale? Y permite que se simplifiquen los procesos de enseñanza para los docentes, que ahora lo veremos también, a nivel de feedback, ¿vale? Y en resumen, mejora la experiencia de aprendizaje, contribuyendo también al éxito del estudiante, ¿vale? Como resumen, 4 puntos a destacar. Lo que os decía, mejora la retención del estudiante, ayuda a los docentes a ser más efectivos gracias a que utilizará la inteligencia artificial para proveer feedback, mejora la experiencia de los estudiantes y aumenta el grado de satisfacción, ¿vale? Tiene un estudio hecho donde el 85% de los estudiantes de esas organizaciones que están utilizando Learwise ya afirman que su experiencia educativa ha mejorado muchísimo gracias a la implementación de Learwise. Bien, oye.
So a little bit of an overview of technology, because the way that we integrate is different than a chatbot. So a lot of people think chatbot, okay, when I go to Gemini or when I go to a basic chatbot in an LMS, that's good for me. The problem for universities and colleges is there are many different things going on at the university or the college where information is in different areas. So if you can see in the bottom part of the screen, the first piece of information that sets it apart from a general chatbot is getting knowledge from everywhere at the institution. So the key aspect here is going to be making sure that we have 100% of all of that information coming through. So what does that mean? It means if I'm an instructor, I might be asking about how do I set up courses or how do I do my surveys. If I'm a student, it might be, where do I go to pay my finance bill? Or where do I go to get the bus to campus? Or if I'm somebody logging in to Canvas, it might be, hey, when is my next assignment? Where do I go to speak with my instructor? So at the bottom portion here, these are all of the knowledge bases that we interact with. And we grab information through the password wall. So behind Canvas, it's LTI 1.3 for placement, and then OAuth 2.0 to go past the logins and make sure that we have the access to that information. For Microsoft Teams and Microsoft SharePoint, We have a Microsoft-approved integration that grabs the information for ticketing systems, where all of the key responses are Topdesk and Salesforce and Freshservice and Jira. All that information is approved by the IT service department. We also can absorb that to make sure that IT questions are handled, like I cannot log in, I've lost my student card, or I need information about my exam schedule. Now, all of this can be pulled from a myriad of sources, but the key is that we create one consistent experience for students and instructors, and we don't create a new place. We work in Moodle, we work in Canvas, we work in SharePoint. The AI assistant is going to work where the students belong and where they should be going. Nobody needs another place to go. Now, the last piece is we offer very affordable pricing for LearnWise. How we do that is we offer LLM agnostic implementation, which means below, underneath the power of LearnWise is multiple large learning language models. So OpenAI is about 90% of our utilization, but also a tiny bit of Meta, tiny bit of Claude or Anthropic. But the key thing here is we take the risk. So there's no variable fees, there's no hosting fees, there's no additional usage fees if you use LearnWise a lot. In fact, we've built it so that you can use it as much as possible in all of these different areas across the institution. But keep in mind, when somebody asks a question in the learning management system, more than half of those questions are not in the learning management system. It's about the student experience. Now, lastly, if you're a big institution, I know there's some folks from UOC and some other large institutions on the call today. We have our app layer. We're going to show the AI concierge. We'll show the AI tutor. We might have time to show a little bit of the AI feedback today. But I think the key thing that we're driving towards today is the understanding that in 2-3 years, each university is going to build their own AI functionality with partners like Altia. So we also have a custom SDK or API stack that allows institutions to build their own functionality. So that might be, hey, at our institution, if you ask about, hey, how much do I pay or how much will I pay next semester? Perhaps there's an AI agent that you could build at your own institution to answer back to those types of questions. So we're incredibly excited to show you. Let's go to the next slide. I think there's 2 more slides, and then the good stuff is showing everything that we have going through. So I think in this type of case, it's just making sure that we understand support is everywhere. It could be for, Marina, do you want to present this one? Obviously, it's in Spanish.
Yeah, I will do that in Spanish. So, como Ian venía diciendo, básicamente lo que ofrece LearnWise es un asistente de Ian para cada uso de soporte. De hecho, ahora vais a ver en la presentación que podéis crear diferentes, los voy a llamar assistants, ¿vale? Para cada uso. ¿Vale? LearnWise, como os decía Ian, es aplicable a cualquier caso de uso, ¿vale? O sea, fuera del aula, dentro del aula, para conocer tendencias, ¿vale? Más a nivel organizativo, ¿vale? ¿Qué es lo que se está preguntando en la institución? ¿Qué es lo que más demandan los estudiantes? ¿Vale? También sirve para el desarrollo docente, como os comentaba también Ian, a ver si nos da tiempo a ver la parte de feedback, pero también se puede incluso meter el chatbot en la parte del enrollment, ¿vale? De las matriculaciones, ¿vale? Para apoyar al tema de la inscripción, ¿no? Pues si tengo una pregunta de, ostras, ¿qué tengo que hacer para matricularme en el próximo semestre? Pues ahí les podéis dar una pequeña guía, ¿vale? Yep.
So,
live demo, do you want to share your screen?
I think everyone showed up here to see. So let's see. Feel free if you have any questions or if there's anything that we might be able to share. And again, as said before, if you have any questions at all, Pietro can respond. So the first placement. So we talked in the intros, we talked about knowledge, we talked about placement, and we talked about role. So as we see here, we see LearnWise is placed in the bottom right corner. But this could be anywhere. It's an LTI 1.3 tool, which means you can provision it how you see fit. Big institutions love this because you can put it in some courses or some areas, or just for instructors, or just for full-time students, or part-time students, or international students. But you can see here, the first area of functionality is generic support. How do I get into my student portal? Okay. And I've stolen public-facing information from the Institute of Zega. So you can see here, their answer is pretty short, but you can see all of the different information comes from multiple website pieces of material. So again, a chatbot or an AI assistant can't be limited exclusively to the information within Canvas or within Moodle. But in this case, oh, we've got general information, which is just a general rag. What if it's a question about admissions or a question about something that we want to make sure that we get in touch with somebody in that particular area? Here, what we can do is we can contact the admissions office at any point. This is your institution's landscape where you can say, I want to speak with somebody right away, a live chat. I want to have a call. I want to have an email. And this changes the way that this information is presented, but also the way that students can interact with your support agents at that particular institution. So what we see here is the RAG or the live response to questions like where can I study or where can I be, et cetera, drops about 30%, 29.5% of tickets going to your IT desk, which is substantial savings. But this topic-based escalation allows students that need that personal touch to speak with somebody in the way that is best for your institution. So first, general support, you can ask it, donde la biblioteca, where can I park? What is my student information area, et cetera, et cetera. And then the second is this thing called topic-based escalation. So if I say, I don't know, I'm having trouble or something like that, I could do that as well. So why don't I ask it another couple questions, but first, we'll go through a couple more examples of this general support. In Moodle, the same type of thing. Here we go. In this case, maybe this institution has a couple different LMSs. You know, I can ask the exact same question, and the same type of answer would come up on screen directly in the learning environment. But what if I'm, in this case, what if I'm French? We can all make fun of the French because I'm Canadian and you're from Spain, right? So in this case, the French are confused. Oh my goodness, where do I go? What documents do I prepare? But you can see the multilingual functionality is forever. And in this case, this ties to the role in SharePoint. So instructors typically would ask this, I have a student that is cheating or a student that is not being nice, making sure that the policy that they want can appear directly in SharePoint or Google Drives or Google Sites, wherever the information is going to be stored, all of this is capable as well. Now, last, that initial example of getting information, a lot of our institutions have it on their website as well. So this helps with admissions and enrollments. But usually institutions do a really good job of this from 9 till 5 during the day. But what about at 2 a.m. in the morning when your international students are asking questions? Hey, do I need to speak Welsh? This is a Welsh institution. I imagine that students that are looking to study in Spain would have this type of question all the time. And again, keep in mind that all of the sources are already there, the contact buttons as far as general inquiries. But if you have, say, for example, this is an English institution. Imagine I'm looking to apply as an international student, and I have this site up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I have 4 other universities. If I can get my information off of this site at 2 o'clock in the morning, it probably means I'm not waiting for an email the next day to continue my application process, and it might help that institution substantially as far as attracting more institutions. Now, what I've done is I've added additional steps to show this is what the AI assistant is doing behind the scenes. It's rewriting the question in 4 or 5 different ways so that the data is then more rich to draw from to make sure that we can go ahead and have that particular piece of information. And then if I go back, it'll search the database and give a response really nicely as far as what an applicant could see. But keep in mind, all of this contacting the team, this is your landscape. Ooh, this is cool. They did this since the last time. You can see here, they've changed their contact centers to actual use cases of applications for students themselves. So our first 2 workflows are 1, which is just generic support, and 2, which is this topic-based escalation, okay? And all of this isn't coding, and there's no setup needed. Behind the scenes, if we go, this is our administrative view of LearnWise. You can see we just set up all of the knowledge by going through and say, hey, I've got your website, and I've got your main website, and I've got your rooftop. I don't know what that is, but another area within this particular institution. And then I've added applications. So maybe I want to add SharePoint or ServiceNow or Salesforce. I'm just going to connect to our SharePoint. But what's beautiful about this is we can add different types of content how you see fit. So in this AI assistant, there's no external data, which means there's no hallucinations. So it's safe. And as Marina mentioned at the beginning, it's ISO compliant, it's SOC 2 compliant, it's GDPR, it's VPAT for accessibility. We were very fortunate. Our biggest institutions were our first institutions. So we had to go through all of the technical abilities to make sure that that happens. Now, let's go a little bit deeper. Okay, so we went through general support, then we went to topic-based support. Let's dive into, well, what about in the course? Because I'm a student, I'm in the course, I need help in my, I'm sure instructors, is there anyone in the chat who teaches? Maybe you could say what course you teach, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But if you teach a course, I want to know what course you teach in the chat. Because what's interesting is we have another layer that goes into the courses in the LMS. So here you can see we've added applications that appear in the course, Kaltura or Google Cloud or Panopto or Simple Syllabus. So we're gathering all that information as well. But most importantly, we're also grabbing the information of all of the different API calls or content within the LMS itself. So in this case, which is this Canvas. So let's go to Canvas. And instead of being down in the bottom right corner, let's go into a course. So this is where you can all make fun of me because my mother is a music professor. And all of the questions about this course are about music, which I am not going to do well. So here we go. What should I study for week 2? So we have an API call that goes into the assignments, it goes into the syllabus, and fetches all of the information that says, hey, maybe these are the things that you should study. Now, technically, you can ask more details from Pietro, but what I would love to tell you is it's an API call that goes directly at the student level into the course materials. So what that means is if one student is on chapter 2, but the student right beside them is on chapter 10, it doesn't matter because the AI assistant sees where the student is in that particular experience. For a lot of online courses, for a lot of adult courses, you're going to have different movements through that course content. It works beautifully with that type of structure. Now, one of the most important questions that we see is when is my next assignment due? So I've turned on the technical pinnings behind, so it's a little bit slower because you can see the API calls, but I wanted to show here, this is what's going on behind the scenes. We are searching for information. We're using the API calls within that particular course. Then when that comes through, it's going to say, well, guess what? Okay, it's March next year because this course is starting again. I've just looped it back into week 1. But these are the types of courses that make instructors' lives very difficult. When is my next course? When is my next assignment? What do I do next? What do I study, et cetera, et cetera. So the third layer is course support, making sure that instructors have automatic responses to this particular tool. This is our most popular amongst faculty. They want it every time, they want it turned on immediately because it takes a lot of work off their plate. But let's go a little bit further. So we had course support, we had topic-based escalations, and keep in mind, if I say something like, in this course as well, the topic-based escalations are also incredibly accurate. So in this case, you have a student that says, well, I don't feel good. Maybe I'm feeling suicidal or not happy. Again, we can bake in these types of contexts with the institution to make sure that the student is safe. And again, these are things that instructors, they're going to do in 5 hours or 6 hours when they get the email. Shouldn't the student get that immediately to make sure that they have help? All right, so next layer. Now maybe we want to play with the content, ask some questions and prepare for an upcoming quiz or an upcoming assignment. This is where we enter into study mode. And I've asked, hey, maybe we could do a few questions. And this is where you see my horrible music intelligence here. What is the primary focus? I'm going to say B. And we go ahead and say, are we right? Are we wrong? It's going to go through the course content and give me a response that says, yes, we're 100% right, or no, I'm 100% wrong. But what I did is I updated the content right before this to show that it goes dynamically into that assignment to make sure that it's there. So then maybe say like, tell me more about rhythm. I'm really stuck. Then we hop out of study mode and then we go into information mode where the student can go ahead and really dig down and study. So flashcards, role play, different aspects of the course that we can play with. In medicine, it's often flashcards. So we have a flashcard material that goes back and forth. For literature and Spanish history, it might be, can we do what's another one? Pietro, flashcards, role play, multiple choice. You know what? Can we pretend you are my instructor asking me role play questions? So you can see this type of question back and forth can continue however you see fit as a student. Pretty simple, but very, very helpful. And I can't answer the question. So anyways, we'll move on. But you can see this type of self-study is incredibly helpful for online courses and different things like that. Now, let's go back into the chat and see, where are my teachers? Anybody? Did anybody help me with it? No teachers in the crowd?
¿Tenemos algún profe en la sala? Que levante quizá la mano, que lo ponga en preguntas y respuestas para ayudar a Ian.
Sí. There must be some instructors in the audience.
A lo mejor no tenemos ninguno, Ian. Maybe we don't have any teacher.
All right, that's okay. I'm sure they all feel empathy for teachers. So the last thing that we can do, perhaps, is if we go into an account here and I take a look at, we'll go to the administrative, all accounts. I'm going to break down, there's also another tool that we have that helps instructors save time when they're marking on those particular areas. So if we open that same course from an instructor view, and then I go to the assignments, and I'm going to choose the foundations of music notation. And I open up SpeedGrader, or I open up Moodle, or I open up Blackboard, or whatever it may be. This takes a lot of work. We're adding notations, we're going ahead and through, and then we have to go ahead and give a huge response on that particular assignment. We also have the ability with, make this bigger, with LearnWise to offer automated feedback in the rubric and any language, so that all you have to do is change the grade or add the grade moving forward. Now, the benefit of this particular feedback is, maybe I didn't like that. We're going to adjust this. I'm going to say all of these, we're going to change, we're going to make it shorter, and we're going to say, I would like this to sound like Stephen Hawking's. And we can adjust the feedback as we see fit. But why this is so helpful is because LearnWise pulls from the course, it pulls from the materials, it pulls from the transcripts. So that's instructors speaking. We mimic the sentiment and the tone from the instructor in the feedback itself. Then it's up to the instructor if they want to add to this, edit this, do anything that they want to submit to the student. So on average, this will remove hours and hours of time on those long essays or those long different forms at the end of the semester. So just to kind of walk through what we talked about today, we talked about a generic support bot, right? Where you can ask anything on a website, in SharePoint, on a student portal, anything that you want. Then in Canvas, or in Moodle, we might have a question about, hey, I want to be directed based on topic-based support, how you see fit to help students evolve. But what about if those escalations, how do we make sure that our data is accurate in all of these communications and questions? Well, first of all, we have a list of all of the information coming through. So you can see me asking questions here. And if we're in Canvas or in Moodle or in SharePoint, we have all of the information from the LTI plug that shows us who the student was, what they were trying to do. So one, we can do a lot of data covered and a lot of reporting to understand what type of student is asking questions. But if this is something that we need to escalate, so we need to send to, I don't know, help desk, let's see, the admissions office, they receive that information in their ticketing system, right? So that they can say, instead of, oh, Steve or Ian, in this case, I want to help, they can say, Ian, I see you were asking about different instructions for access. And I can see that you are in Canvas, you were in structure. And I can see that you are on a public computer, and the language is there, so we can start and resolve that ticket very, very quickly. Now, the last piece is, what if this is wrong? Or what if this is a situation where the AI assistant cannot answer? We can also say, let's create this in a queue for content improvement. So you can see here, we load this up, and this is where the AI assistant couldn't respond. But what if we wanted to do one where there was a source? Let me just go back here. If there was a source, we could flag it, and through an API structure, we can send these types of pieces to information directly to the appropriate team at the institution to improve that knowledge or add it to the AI assistant so they can move forward. Now, the last piece, I talked a little bit about insights and about data. So whether you're on an instructor level or whether you're on an institution level, data is important. Now, the leaders in the IT department will want to know, okay, how are we performing? So there's an overarching dashboard says, hey, these are the amount of conversations that we have. This is a live institution with about 12,000 students. So in the last month, 7,000 conversations, and there's been 3,300. So we're looking at about a quarter of the institution has used the AI assistant, and only, oh, well, they have 0 escalations because they take their escalations in a different way. But also, if you're an instructor, you would get a trends report within the course that might say, everyone is asking about citations or this particular topic. But at an institution level, let's go into November. They're asking questions about pharmacology. They're asking questions about accessing this particular preparation area. So you can see here, this creates your communication plan. It creates the way that you can help students through the learning journey, bit by bit by bit. So I'll stop there. There's a lot more that we could dive into, but I think at a high level, LearnWise is very affordable, but at the same time, it helps institutions save money by stopping tickets going to support, but also increases the experience of the student, because at any point they can get that information or access all of the different areas at the institution for different pieces of information or human contact. Now, at this point, Pietro, do you have anything to add from a technical perspective, or anything that, because I know you work with our Spanish customers, feel free to jump in if there's anything you'd like to add.
No, I think you did a good job. Bueno, pienso que ha hecho un buen trabajo bien. Si tienen alguna pregunta de lo que ha presentado bien, me la pueden pasar a mí por el chat o por el micrófono, como quieran, pero más o menos sí, han mostrado prácticamente todo lo que tenemos del producto de LearnWise.
Abrimos, si queréis, ronda de preguntas, ¿vale? Si alguien en la sala tiene alguna pregunta, lo puede poner en el chat. Iremos yendo pregunta por pregunta, ¿vale? Y os iremos resolviendo vuestras dudas.
Yeah, there's a personal message to me about how it integrates into Canvas. Maybe Pietro, you could speak to that a little bit.
Sí, la integración a Canvas es, bueno, la última vez que le pregunté a las personas que hacen integraciones, dura más o menos 5 minutos hacer la integración. Claro, dependiendo también de las funcionalidades, pero si tienes una instancia de Canvas, si quieres el chat como tal, el que aparece así justo abajo a la derecha de la pantalla, eso lo puedes tener en 5 minutos prácticamente, o bueno, media hora, depende de qué tanto contenido tengas, pero para tener lo más básico lo puedes tener ya listo en 5 minutos. El curso como tal, para que funcione de tutor, ese funciona con el protocolo LTI 1.3. Nosotros también en nuestro panel de admin se puede configurar todo el LTI, y también sí puede tardar unos 5 o 10 minutos o algo así de sencillo, como también el feedback. Así que parece como que, ¿sabes? ¿Cómo puedo hacer para poner el feedback, el LTI y todo lo demás? Pero nosotros tenemos guías, y en verdad que dentro de media hora puedes tener todo en tu instancia de Canvas. Así es sencillo.
Sí, es bastante fácil, ¿eh? Integrarlo no solo con Canvas, con Canvas, con Moodle, con Blackboard,
Sí,
Brightspace,
sí,
es muy sencillo de integrar.
exacto. Todos los LMS grandes que sean Moodle, Brightspace, Blackboard, Canvas, la integración puede durar unas media hora. Si tienes otro tipo de LMS, lo podemos consultar, pero nosotros también hemos trabajado con otros LMS que son de la familia de Moodle, uno llamado Totara, no sé si alguien lo utiliza, pero nosotros también hemos hecho la integración a Totara, también fue 15, 20 minutos desde crear asistente a tenerlo en Totara, así que es muy flexible como tal el sistema.
Pietro, esta es para ti. Disponemos de documentación o descripciones tipo AI Nutrition Facts que detallen el modelo, los datos de entrenamiento, sesgos conocidos y casos de uso recomendados.
Sí, no he escuchado el término AI Nutrition Facts, pero sí, en el momento de implementación podemos detallar todo el modelo que se está utilizando. Como decía ella, nosotros somos agnósticos al modelo como tal, así que usamos una combinación de ciertos modelos dependiendo del performance de cada uno de ellos. En su mayoría utilizamos los APIs de OpenAI, pero como he dicho bien, también usamos Anthropic y Cohere, otros sistemas, usamos una combinación de varios. Pero sí, En tal caso, en el momento de implementación, se puede dar todos los detalles del modelo que se está utilizando en ese momento. Nosotros tenemos más bien un sistema de testing muy rígido, donde cada vez que hacemos cualquier cambio, nosotros tenemos como un nivel de testing que dura varias semanas de conversaciones que hemos ido acumulando durante años, desde que comenzamos Learnwise. Así que siempre aseguramos que el performance no baje.
Vale,
¿Podéis comentar cómo se licencia?
pues sí, es un SaaS, ¿vale? Entonces, se licencia o sea, por número de usuarios, ¿vale? Hay una pequeña implementación y un soporte que hay que pagar, pero como decía Ian al principio, es muy asequible, ¿vale? En función del tipo de institución que tengas y también de los usuarios, evidentemente, cuanto más usuarios, pues es un precio que es escalable, ¿vale? Otra
Sí.
pregunta, Ian o Pietro.
Ya, sí, está
Em,
basada en agentes,
sí,
es a
está
platform
basada.
based on agents. Pero sí, Frank, la plataforma como sí, tenemos agentes de IA como tal, como te decía Ian o como mostraba, todo lo que sea conexión de API se puede conseguir un agente que simplemente tenemos más o menos, sin ir tan profundo en ello, pero tenemos más o menos ciertas instrucciones de cómo conseguir la data y nosotros tenemos a la gente consiguiendo la data para poder ejecutar a base, para poder ejecutar la respuesta a la pregunta a base del contexto del estudiante, por ejemplo. Como también tenemos la posibilidad de extender la plataforma con agentes que ustedes construyan. Como decía Ian, si ustedes tienen agentes, por ejemplo, de cómo hago cuánto debo yo por este semestre de universidad, ustedes pueden también crear sus propios agentes que se pueden utilizar a través de nuestra plataforma. Así que se puede extender con agentes que ustedes tengan o que ustedes quieran construir, por ejemplo. Pero sí, es una plataforma basada en agentes.
Vale, tenemos otra pregunta. ¿Puede crear test de nivelación? Y nada, ha sido un placer. Quiero dar enormemente las gracias a Ian y a Pietro, ¿vale? Para estar con nosotros en este webinar. Muchas gracias a todos los asistentes. Si tenéis cualquier duda, cualquier pregunta, me podéis escribir directamente, ¿vale? Muchas gracias a vosotros por compartir este rato con nosotros.